Hey guys, how's it going? Michael Troy here. Very excited about today's episode. Today we're looking at the Alpha Flight Omnibus by John Byrne. One of my favorite books of all time. I cannot wait to share it with you guys. If you watch my channel, you know how much I love John Byrne, how much I love Alpha Flight. Finally got my hands on this omnibus, which is very hard to find. There is a caveat, which I will tell you after you subscribe to my channel, after you hit like, after I roll the intro, and after I come right back.
MichaelFitzTroytv Comic book art critiques. Snark, talk, and sarcastic ways. Representing geeky gaze. Sadie's comics rule the day. Hurry up and turn that page. MichaelFitzTroy.
Alright, so here I am. So, this is the Alpha Flight Omnibus, but it is the Italian edition from Panini Comics. So, I missed the boat on the Omnibus. I don't know how it happened. You know how it is. I don't religiously collect comics the way I used to. I'm more into the older stuff. I can't believe I let this get past me. I'm sure when the Omnibus came out, it was probably like 125, 150 bucks. Now you're lucky if you can find it for less than like 300 or 400 on eBay. So I don't have the Omnibus. And you're saying like, you do have it. It's right there. Guess what? This is the Italian edition. I'm such a fan of John Byrne's art that it doesn't matter that's in Italian. I only paid 50 bucks for it. I do have a bid on another one, so hopefully I have the English version coming through. It's a gorgeous book, nonetheless. We're going to showcase the art. So, one disappointment, though. The American version has Alpha Flight 1 through 29, but it also has, like, their first few appearances in the X-Men. Justice Machine, or no, not Justice Machine. Machine Man Annual or Machine Man number 18 or something where they were in, and then Marvel 2-in-1 Annual or something, and those are not here. It's just the series, which is fine because that's like the bread and butter for me, but it is in Italian, so luckily I know the story and I don't need to translate anything. There won't be any spoilers, and ciao, you know, unless you speak Italian. Maybe you can just read along with me. I don't know what the American version looks like. This is a little plain and boring, just like the logo and a black cover, and like, really? Really? Okay. Ooh, condition issues. Didn't mention that to me, buddy, did you? Anyway, here we go. I love Alpha Flight. I love that it's bigger. I think this was for some promo art, like right after Guardian died. Oops, spoiler, Guardian dies. Great shot of Puck from the cover of number 5. Story, I keep forgetting that this is in Italian, but basically we're getting John Byrne, we're getting Bill Mantlo, we're getting Andy Younkus, we're getting Keith Williams. Now, here I will point this out. This is the cover to Marvel Age number 2, and this was like the big promo shot for Alpha Flight. I used to have these weird, like, silk wall hanging. Marvel used to do, like, these sort of, they were like banners. They had, like, a wooden pole, and then it had, like, cloth hanging down from different covers and art from their comics. And this was one of them, and they were amazing. And I hope they're in a box in Ohio somewhere, but I don't know. Did you guys ever have those? They were so cool. I feel like I'm the only one who knows about them or remembers them. Perhaps it's some sort of Mandela effect. I don't know. But I am rambling, and I do have to say that as opposed to this, the cover that was eventually used for number 1, I feel like this is a much better piece of art, a much better, this would have been much better for the cover to issue 1. And also, I would like to say, oh, look, it's including the interview from Marvel Age, but it's in Italian, so I can't read it. But anyway, I mean, I know a lot of Spanish. How different could it be? I don't know. I just love John Byrne's art. I think that Alpha Flight is one of those things. I feel like it sort of has, like, mixed, like, reception. Like, and John Byrne himself was annoyed when he left the book. He said, because he did it a little different. They're a team, but they kind of only get together when it's important or they need to. And the rest focuses like on their personal lives and their own individual stories. And I thought that was super groundbreaking. I really loved it. It made it feel extra special when they got together. And I thought it was a great approach. And he said that people just kind of wanted the X-Men, and he was kind of annoyed by that. So it's very also interesting is that Terry Austin inked this cover, and Byrne inked at least, the first 13 or 14 issues of the book. We'll find out as we go through this. But I am never going to say no to Terry Austin inking John Byrne. Aside from, like, my two favorite inkers for John Byrne are Terry Austin and John Byrne himself. So I am totally cool with that. What a great splash page. Such a great use of negative space. Alpha Flight, one of my all-time favorite teams. It made me love Canada, oddly enough. I don't know, has anyone ever had anything like that? Like, Kitty Pryde being Jewish made me love Jewish people without even knowing from being from Toledo, Ohio, really what a Jewish person was. So, you know, you talk about inclusion in comics and diversity, and I feel like they've kind of always been doing it and introducing kids to different aspects of life that they may not have in their own life. And so Alpha Flight's kind of disbanded. They've lost government funding when the story begins, and we sort of see them coming together. Oh my God, this art is just so beautiful. I love that the art is a little bigger, which reminds me, do you guys know those IDW artist editions where they reprint they scan the original art boards, and then print them in black and white and other glory, so you get to see like the art. And I'm dying for an Alpha Flight version. And apparently, I might as well be wishing for a unicorn, because I don't think it's going to happen. But I even made a petition, and I want it to happen. By the way, Aurora and North Star are my favorite Alphans. I've got so much to cover, so much to say, and I love these guys so much. I just did an hour-long video, and I don't want to do that again, because nobody's going to watch that, first of all. And second of all, it took like forever and a day to upload. Interesting. I never noticed this before, and I wonder if it's like this in the original comic book. How his shirt is pink here, and then it goes to white in that panel. You often see color mistakes like that in comic books. They had very limited, you know, things to do with color effects at the time that was available to them. And you often see, usually on the covers, oddly enough, because usually the person who colored the interiors did not color the covers. Here is the Mac and Heather's Volkswagen Bug, and if we saw it from the front, you would see GNU as the license plate, because I believe that was an old license plate from Byrne, and he's used it over and over again as like sort of an Easter egg for himself. Oh, this is so cool. I love this. So Guardian flies out the window. She's gonna try to get like Alpha Flight together because he needs help, and she pulls this bookshelf, and then it reveals a secret hidden room. That is so cool. I love that so much. That is such like a comic book element that I feel like you don't look at this high-tech keyboard. I love it. And this is what, 1983, maybe 82, 81, I don't know. Marina is so beautiful. It's like, I mean, John Byrne's art is just breathtaking. He was doing Fantastic Four as well, and inking both, penciling, inking, and writing 2 monthly books. I mean, what an enigma he is. A lot of people, like, I feel like at certain points he did take shortcuts, and we'll get to that with the art coming up. But, I mean, aside from that, this is so beautifully drawn, and kind of another reason why I do want to see the artist edition, because I want to see, like, what ink he actually slapped on the pages, and just like this tundra effect is just so cool. His use of like negative space and spotting blacks is like totally on point. I love this here. Notoriously, John Byrne is not like the biggest fan of Alpha Flight. I think he likes them more than he lets on, but he says he just kind of created them as throwaway foils for the X-Men to fight. And guess what? He created legendary, great characters that I have always loved. And this effect, like I just said, is so freaking cool. I love that. I love the fact that it's Canadian and takes place in Canada. Aurora North Star. Very fun, playful panels here. It's funny because coloring has changed so much. Like, you would not see this type of coloring in comic books these days. How the panels just go from like solid yellow, blue, orange, and red backgrounds all within 4 panels. Like, that's so ridiculous. But I love it. Like, it's a sign of the times. Alpha Flight is just so cool. All their costumes look great together. They have like similar elements with like these jagged lines, but different colors. Sasquatch is great as you know, I mean, who cares if this is in Italian? You didn't even notice, did you? We're too busy looking at the art. It's funny, I do own like several individual issues that are in different languages, like Swedish and Italian and French, and I don't know, it's just kind of fun because especially, you know, we had 28 issues of John Byrne doing Alpha Flight, no annuals or anything, which he normally does. So any way I can get Byrne Alpha Flight, I take it, whether it's a poster or a pennant or a patch. You're like, what? But this is so cool. I love this. And this is issue 2 that we're on. Yeah. Very cool cover of Marina. Attento, Pac. Lesta scadando. Yeah, see, I'm not going to attempt to read this in Italian because if it were in Spanish, I could fake it, but I don't know what I'm doing with Italian, to be honest with you. But I'm happy to see, like, just the art, like, printed on these beautiful, slick pages. And you can see the details. I mean, when it first came out, printing was horrible, notoriously. And artists always lamented just, like, how much of their art felt lost in the printed page. A lot of times, like, the details would fall out and you wouldn't be getting as crisp of an image. So, for 50 bucks... Italian or not, I will take this gorgeous printing of this John Byrne art, the master. Alpha Flight also had, I always think of Alpha Flight as sort of like a superhero soap opera in a way. It's very funny because this is one of my absolute favorite covers of Alpha Flight. I love it. It sort of loses its effect a little by having this border here, but other than that, I mean, like, how insane. Like, what a great use of, like, a black and white cover. Like, basically, you're getting the color of her skin and the color of her eyes, and that's it. But you have all this great, like, perspective and insane. And that's why we love John Byrne. Okay? Okay. Storia I disegni. Snowbird, another beautifully designed character. That's the other thing about Alpha Flight. Like, he may not love them, but he ruined them for everybody because no one draws Alpha Flight like John Byrne. John Byrne just has, this is kind of cool, like, one manifestation of Snowbird's powers is she can sort of see in the past in, like, a limited fashion. So she's witnessing what happened to this ship here as her teammates. Interesting. Every once in a while, I see something that looks sort of like Terry Austin's inks. Although, aside from covers, he never inked an issue of Alpha Flight, which I would have welcomed, aside from Byrne himself. But later, Bob Wiacek takes over, and I love his inks on Byrne as well. So, it's all good in the hood. But Byrne definitely brings the noise. I don't know, I just love this so much. Like I said, I love the fact that it takes place in Canada because it just brought such a different kind of feel and aesthetic to the book. And, you know, he said that people wanted X-Men, and that's kind of why I loved this book so much, because it wasn't X-Men. It's like, you know, now we have like 50 different X-Men books. It's like, give me something different. If I want X-Men, I'll read X-Men, and boy, did I, you know. Of course, I was a huge fan of the Claremont X-Men. I love this. Great splash page, pinup of Guardian. And let's face it, people, can you think of a better costume design than Guardian? It has to be in the top 10, or at least the top 20 greatest superhero costume designs of all time. I mean, easily. It's beautiful. Great cover here. John Byrne, luckily. You know, sometimes he didn't draw covers, like for the X-Men and certain other books that he was on. He missed a few Wonder Woman covers, and I'm glad that he drew every single 28 issues of covers, because I love his cover art. I mean, his sequential stuff is unparalleled, but also his cover art. He's many great covers. And it was so fun to see Sue Storm pop in here. That's what I love about the Marvel Universe, too, is, like, you're always going to see, like, other people showing up in different books, and that was fun. I mean, DC is definitely more like that now, but at the time, I don't think they were as much into, like, crossovers or cameos or whatever, unless it was just, like, a special event. And Namor, we get to see Namor with his weird flat head, and John Byrne draws such a great Namor, and of course would go on to do a Namor series. And this is like John Byrne just drawing huge, big tech and just having so much fun. I mean, he's a huge fan of Kirby, and I think that he definitely falls into the Kirby category when it comes to drawing, like, machinery and tech and backgrounds and just, like, space and things like that. Marina had such a great story. Then he kind of wrote her out of the book, and she didn't really come back, and that was fine because she was like a secondary. I always thought this was such a great storytelling here. I just love this. Like the wide angle, horizontal panels that not only go across one page, but like 2 pages. So that is very cool. Did I mention that I like Alpha Flight and I love John Byrne? In case I forgot to tell you guys, I do. Stanley Presenta. See, I'm speaking Italian. I'm learning Italian, and I love that they leave the title in English here. What fools these mortals be, because John Byrne has the best, cheesiest, like, classic comic book titles. And see, this is why I love classic comic books. This is what made me fall in love with comics. All the elements are here. You have captions, you have story titles, you have thought balloons, you have sound effects. And a lot of these things have gone the wayside in modern comics. And then they're like, why aren't comic books as popular as they used to be? Well, they're not really comic books anymore. They're graphic movies. They're people trying to draw movies and not taking advantage of the elements and the tricks and of the trade that make comic books so freaking amazing. Another thing that John Byrne did in Alpha Flight that was really fun is in the first several issues, he had like backup stories with like little origins of the characters, because they were largely introduced, you know, in the X-Men as a team that was already together. You know, they were sort of behind why, you know, why Wolverine became Weapon X and all that stuff. This is a famous issue, number 6, with the famous, like, several pages of white and no art. We'll get to that, but it's called Snowblind, and apparently Italian for snowblind is Execata della Neve. If you guys speak Italian and you're watching this, you're dying for my pronunciations. And please, I don't blame you. Die away. Gorgeous, gorgeous art. I love Snowbird. It's weird. It's because she basically has no personality. Like, I read an article with John Byrne and explaining, like, the personalities and the histories of Alpha Flight, and it's funny because he said they're such throwaways, but they're very, like, intricate and, like, well-rounded. Like, Snowbird feels sort of, like, uncomfortable with humans and sort of above them, so she's very, like, aloof and distant, and I always thought that was cool. And then he would make her go on to try to want to learn how to be human, so, I mean, I feel like we could have gotten years and years of Alpha Flight, and I just wish he loved them as much as I do, because then we wouldn't have all that crazy Bill Mantlo stuff that basically dismantled everything Byrne did and just like pretty much ruined it. So here we come. She's getting, it's called Snowblind. She's getting into a snow fight, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 whole pages of nothing but white panels. And apparently John Byrne was paid for the art on those pages because Jim Shooter said it was still comic book storytelling. So kudos to you, John Byrne, for pulling off the grift of the century when it comes to, I mean, you talk about Rob Liefeld not doing backgrounds. Well, this is like one-upping that in the worst way and best way possible. Like, not only are there no backgrounds, there's no figures, there's no buildings, there's nothing. Nothing but a bunch of white. Now, as a collector, because back in the day, now they do all the computer lettering, but there would have been a board with like this lettering, and I'm sure John Byrne at least did the panels, of course. So I wonder who owns these original pages and how much they paid for them. More Shaman background. Shaman's a cool character, although I love Talisman way more. Oh my gosh, Aurora. I remember someone telling me that this was like their first issue of Alpha Flight, and they thought how boring the cover was. And as someone collecting the book and a huge fan of Aurora, like, that never occurred to me that it might be a boring cover, because I'm like, all right, we got Aurora, clearly just having him decked, you know, this man with blue hair or whatever, so I'm all for it. No spoilers here. I'm assuming you're an Alpha Flight fan and you know what's going on. We're just looking at the beautiful art, and I'm sharing with you my memories and my experiences with it because I love it so much. Deadly Earnest. All I had to do was touch people to suck the life out of them. I know several people like that. Some people don't even have to touch you to suck the life out of you. Delphine Courtney, we'll get to her soon. But I love, Byrne was like, especially in the 80s, he always gave women these like weird asymmetrical hairdos. I guess it was appropriate for the time. Not exactly timeless, but fun nonetheless. Aurora will eventually get her own asymmetrical do. It's funny because as much as we love John Byrne's art, he's notoriously bad at drawing children. And that is just freaky. Baby Snowbird there. Creeping me out. Great shot of North Star. Love that. North Star is such a great character. Completely, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how I feel about his whole X-Men life, but whatever, at least he's still around. Love Nemesis. I always thought she had a cool design. A little bit like Spider-Man's black costume mixed with Spawn there. Perhaps an influence. I don't know. This was always a fun panel for me. I love this. I must have drawn like Aurora in this outfit a million times. I love her legs just breaking the panel border there. And that was how she's, I don't know. It's just cool. Nemesis with her sword that's only like, it's so thin it almost doesn't even exist, and that's why she can like cut through. She can slice between the atoms. It's so sharp. Imagine that. A Ginsu knife that could do that would sell like hotcakes. And that's how she was able to chop up Deadly Earnest into multiple parts. And like, what a creepy, cool, amazing panel right there. Am I right? With Deadly Earnest and his big pinstripe suit in purple, no less. They had to use what they had at the time, of course, but you get a lot of garish colors in comic books, which is fine with me. Bring on the garishness. I love this version of Snowbird, too. I always thought she looked kind of hippie and pretty. Genesis. Great use of spotting blacks here. Alex Toth would be so proud. This was turned into a t-shirt, which I owned. Ooh, this is cool. Andy Younkus, colorist. Andy Younkus did do some cool colors on this book. This is like the Sasquatch story with the Super Skrull, so that was cool. and The Thing. He thinks it's The Thing, but it's not. And this was also, speaking of The Thing, this was inspired by the movie The Thing. And it's too cool for school, and I love this 2-part Sasquatch story versus the Super Scroll. I mean, the art is just gorgeous. A little Aurora origin here in the back. That's what I love about Byrne too. It's like he just never shorts you on the details, like all the details on this building and stuff. I've always loved this shot of Aurora. I think she looks really pretty there. And Wolverine, yay. It was always fun to see Wolverine pop up. Love this cover here. That is so cool. I love Sasquatch's eyes. It's like such a great cover. New York. Captain Marvel. No, not Captain Marvel. Forgive me. Captain America. What was I thinking? Oh my God, another great splash page. How beautiful is that? I love that so much. I love this too. I'm just a sucker for like artistic little things like this. And I just love the shading on there. How, you know, he's grabbing his ignited ankles. And so the lighting is appropriate there. Just little things that we take for granted that John Byrne brings to the page and why we love him so much. I always thought that was such a cool shot of the Super Scroll getting blasted there too. You can almost hear the no. And that's why comics are so great. Who needs movies? Like, it's a movie in your mind, right? I just love this shot of North Star, but I love Zipatone too, so that's a cool screen effect there. It's kind of a shame that Aurora and North Star, it's funny because they're being introduced because they were raised separately and they're about to grab hands, but little do we know when they touch each other, like a bright light flashes, a manifestation of their mutant powers. The only 2 original mutants on the team. I don't know if they introduced anyone else to the team later that was a mutant, but I thought it was kind of cool because it would have been easy to have like X-Men villains be all mutants, but not so much. Speaking of witches, here comes Box, Andrew Box, and he becomes Box, which is kind of funny. But I always thought Box had such a great design. I love that character. Wild Child. That is one ugly mofo right there. It's funny, you can sort of see how Byrne would go on to do Next Men, because this is kind of giving me certain Next Men vibes and some of the stuff he's doing here, because it's superhero, but it's not total traditional superhero. I always thought of Alpha Flight as sort of like a, almost like Twin Peaks, David Lynch-ish in a way. I mean, there were elements of horror and mysticism and just like all kinds of cool stuff with like all the Canadian, like, I don't know, spiritual stuff and Native American or Indigenous people rather, because you can't be a Native American in Canada now, can you? Classic cover. I've homaged that myself. I love this here. That is so great. I love the choice to make it like all white and sparse. Very modern for the time with her asymmetrical do. This is, of course, the classic issue, One Shall Surely Die. Did they change it? Y uno di loro moriría, and one shall surely die. Special numero extra large Alpha Flight. Beautiful art all around. Aurora using her powers to instantly change into her costume. And she's going to fly Walter. She's protected from the elements because of her power, of course, but he has to wear this protective suit. I just love, I always felt like one of John Byrne's strengths is I feel like he always thought of like little details and added like little things like that to the story. And always drawing like a great butt on North Star. That's another reason to not hate John Byrne. And MIMHO in my humble opinion. He draws beautiful men and very good looking, or beautiful women and good looking men. And just great classic looking superheroes too. Oh, great double page spread. Fighting Omega Flight. Whatever they were called at that time. See, like, why is her glove white? It should be yellow. I hate coloring mistakes like that. They always chapped my ass. The other thing that always chapped my ass, and I think I pointed this out in another Alpha Flight issue or episode that I've done, is that Aurora always feels like she's taken out of the action pretty early on. And I feel like she's above that. But I guess super speed and flight, like she's not invulnerable or anything. So maybe she's an easy target. I don't know. I always love the hatching on this page. Like so good. The cross hatching in Smart Alex armor, helmet, metal, adornments, whatever you want to call them. Box, very cool. Just picking up Sasquatch like he's a plush toy and spinning around and throwing him. Delphine Courtney, I love that Heather ripped off her rubber face and then she just like pulls off her chest plate. And like on the other side of this are just boobs swinging in the wind. I want the other angle just to see how silly that would look. More great cross hatching here. I love this panel. Such a great shot of Box. Very cool. I always love that too. I just love the way John Byrne draws like his effects and whatnot. Here's Mac, Guardian. My suit, like, I feel like this must be like one of the most flawed suits ever. First of all, like, why so much circuitry all over? And like, it's failing. He's trying to deactivate it. Heather walks in and interrupts him, and blam, he explodes. It kills him. Guilt forever. Did she feel guilty? Issue 13, Wolverine on the cover. Love this cover. Of course, it has the typical gravestones with the friends and other creators' names on that. Miller for Frank Miller. Grom for Al Milgrom. Senk for Bill Sienkiewicz. Such a great splash page here. Love this. His use of negative space is amazing in this open sequence. It's also a nightmare, obviously, because it's called Nightmare. But I like how, because I hadn't seen much of that, like not closing the panels. I thought that was a cool effect when I first saw that. And it still is a cool effect. Such a gorgeous book. I'm grateful to have this, Italian or not. And then I have to turn around and do the American version if I win my bid on eBay, you guys. And then Heather took over as leader, which was fine with me, but then Bill Mantlo put her in the Vindicator suit, and John Byrne never wanted her to be there. I feel like Bill Mantlo kind of just, even though I loved Bill Mantlo's writing, like on other things like Cloak and Dagger, and I guess Micronauts, and like he was a very lucrative writer, and so theoretically, it would have been awesome to have him on Alpha Flight, but he so took it in a weird direction. I always thought this was funny how, like, she has this pink bra and this yellow pants and very bright cover, but it's also a very cool cover. I love how you can sort of see her being dragged under, but we can also see Puck on the surface. Another great splash page, a beautiful image of Snowbird there. She's such an elegant, regal character. I just love her. And Heather is very heroic. She just thinks nothing of, I mean, there is a child in the water, so, but she doesn't think twice. And why is Puck thinking twice? Can he not swim? I don't remember, but Heather just dives right in. And she regrets it because her legs get shredded by these tentacles that we don't see. Another great sequence here of Aurora being confronted by her alter ego, Jeanne-Marie Bobier, the mousy school teacher, juxtaposed to the vixenous vamp of a superhero that is Aurora with her split personality. I liked when Marina hooked up with Submariner and Byrne added these like cool sleeves to her costume, and that's really the only change aside from the necklace. But I love this. I even created a superhero that had these kind of sleeves on it just because I loved it so much. I wanted to make it my own. Oh, and here we go. Elizabeth, two young men, Shaman's daughter, get introduced to her here. She would go on to become Talisman. And as far as the secondary Alpha Flight character, well, I did like the secondary characters within Byrne's run. Box and Talisman, I guess, are the only two, really. You could say Puck and Marina as well, even though they debuted in the first issue, but they were part of Beta Flight, the secondary team, and were graduated to Alpha Flight because Heather unknowingly summoned them to go aid the team on a mission. And I also do want to point out that with issue 15, Bob Wiacek takes over with the inks over John Byrne. And interestingly enough, even though I did love Bob Wiacek's inks, like I felt like he was the best inker for Paul Smith and the X-Men. I love that so much. At the time, like, especially going from John Byrne's inks to Bob Wiacek's, like, I definitely preferred Byrne's inks, but I have a new appreciation for the way the art looks here. I think that Bob Wiacek is probably one of the inkers who inks Byrne's pencils the way his pencils look, if that makes sense. Like, he doesn't over-embellish them. Like, you wouldn't see much deviation from the way the actual pencils look. You would probably see more deviation from the pencils in the way that Byrne inks himself than Bob Wiacek does, if that makes sense. And if it doesn't, I'm sorry, I can't help you, but I feel like I've over-explained it enough to this point where you're on your own. And here we go, Aurora. Oh my God, what are you doing? You're gonna cut your hair? I'm afraid. I love you, don't change. But don't worry, I'm gonna love you still. Marina and her temperamental, I mean, she's an alien, whatever. An evil one at that, I guess. Duking it out with Namor. Elizabeth and Michael, two young men. He's all excited to see her, and she's like, hold the phone, Dad. The Master. He's like, surprise, bitch. Didn't think you'd see me again, and here I am. Such a great shot. I love this. Like, totally looks like a fish. Could you imagine just building this or just seeing? I would love to see how they would do this in a movie. That would look so awesome. And all this great Byrne, like, machinery and circuitry. You know, sometimes you see little elements of Kirby because he does homage Kirby from time to time. Box, such a great design. Here comes Wolverine, popping up when you least expect it. That's kind of horrifying there, whatever's going on. Namor, looking awesome and perfect. That's what I also love about, you know, there's no superhero that John Byrne can't draw. Everybody always looks so cool, drawn by John Byrne. I feel the same way about George Perez. Like, everyone just looks so much more fun and exciting when either of those two draw them. They're always welcome versions. Like, there is not one character that I've ever seen John Byrne draw who I've been like, oh, well, I prefer someone else's version. No, I probably prefer John Byrne's version. This largely reprints an issue from the X-Men, but I'm cool with that. John Byrne used this a lot for his West Coast Avengers run, doing the splash pages, like with a big figure and no background. I kind of like that effect. It's funny when you've been following an artist for years and years and years, and you're just so familiar with their work, you kind of know like certain poses that are specific to them, certain angles or certain ways that they draw different things. And I just love that. I mean, oh, come on, Magneto. Who draws a better Magneto than Byrne? Maybe Kirby. Maybe Kirby. This is the old stuff, inked by Terry Austin. Very early in Byrne's run on the X-Men, too. But very cool nonetheless. I just love this for so many reasons. And of course, I guess Claremont is scripting this or whatever. Not that we would know, because it's in Italian. Have you forgotten by now that this is in Italian? This always cracked me up. So amateur. Guardian, like, goes to fire at Colossus. It bounces off of Colossus's organic steel hide. And of course, brains Moira McTaggart at the same time, which pisses off Banshee, and he goes on the attack. And then Guardian pops out of existence because his suit is magnetic, and he sort of did something with the magnetic force of the Earth. So he's not really teleporting. I don't know. It was kind of cool, but just another Byrne fake science thing that I love. This is so cool. Here we go. Aurora, she's cut her hair. She so hates her brother, her twin brother, that she's having Walter genetically alter her powers so that she can be as different from her brother as possible. Joke's on her. She becomes a little weaker, which I hate. I hate when they weaken female characters. This is the first glimpse of her new, which a lot of people hated this look and call it her ice skater costume. I love it. And we don't even get to see the full Monty for like another 2 issues until issue 20, and I felt so robbed about that at the time. But I always kind of love this. This is like a classic comic book cover too. It's like a day in the life, or like what's going on, or Heather's doing this, Snowbird's doing this, Talisman is doing this. Face it, true believers, this issue has it all. See, here he is teasing. Heather, what the hell are you doing? Put that away. Oh, don't worry. I would never wear it unless, of course, Bill Mantlo put me in the outfit. And then I would totally do it. This is fun here, too. And when I say John Byrne creates amazing villains, this is exactly what I mean. When have you ever, in your entire life, read a comic book where the villain is nothing more than an out-of-control skillet of, wait for it, scrambled eggs gone wild everywhere, shooting everywhere. Like, I can't think of, and scrambled eggs, scrambled is pretty much one of the only ways I will eat an egg. So this would ruin scrambled eggs for me if they were like controlled by a demon force and flying everywhere and exploding my house. Great effect there. John Byrne draws such great explosions. I know you're like, whatever, John Byrne draws everything great. This is so cool here. I love this use of negative space. Very cool effect with the silhouettes. Awesome. Morte, morte, morte. That means death. Talisman. Love this. Like, what a gorgeous costume, right? I mean, it's funny because at the time I think I was completely unfazed by things like this. I mean, this is nothing worse than Cher would have worn at the time. She has kind of Cher looking, interestingly enough. But pretty risque, like very open cleavage. You can totally see her hips, like the side of her hips. And it goes down like past her navel. Very risque. It's like, here's my 19-year-old daughter. I'm introducing her to the team, and she's dressed like a hooker. Although it never looked slutty to me. And I love that, like, she's the chosen one, so Snowbird is, like, bowing to her, and they're all like, WTF? What are you doing, Snowbird? Oh, my God, that's just my daughter. Alpha Flight. I mean, I don't know. Like, I hope it's in my lifetime, but Marvel is going to realize one day what a frickin' gold mine they have with this. And I just feel like it's been so either watered down or bastardized or just mishandled ever since Byrne left that no one can kind of do it right. This is kind of fun for me. First of all, I love Gilded Lily, like another great Alpha Flight villain, like so weird, right? But here's Byrne inking the figures, and Keith Williams, who he works with a lot, is doing the backgrounds. And I also love this art combination here. And I love that we're getting to see this because this was also when they started doing the flexographic printing, and a lot of the art came out like sort of like the blacks came out like almost gray and lighter than it should have been, and not gorgeous. And here's what I've been waiting for 3 issues. Aurora in her new costume, debuting on the next page. Great build up here. The gold boots hitting the ground, and blam, there she is. I love this page so much. I would love to own this original page. I would love to have this as a poster. It's amazing. It's gorgeous. I love it. Ice skater, I don't know. I love ice skating. Give it to me. I'm fine with that. She's acting a little bit like a hussy. She kisses this guy right in front of Sasquatch. She's like, you don't want me to have fun? I'm out of here. You got to see my new costume. I'll meet up with you later at Gilded Lily's mansion. No big deal. So cool. I loved Allison. Here's Aurora. See, now since she's been genetically altered, she actually like feels the cold, and she's like, oh great, what did I do? They didn't over-explore that, I feel. Like, we're only 8 issues away from Byrne leaving the book, so I feel like he could have kept going on. It's funny, here we go again, like Byrne getting paid to do nothing. Like, I'm just gonna make these 2 pages totally black. Love the audacity. Gilded Lily, all her statues are so realistic. That one's so realistic, it's even winking. Guess what? Because there's a person in there. I love Gilded Lily. She looks like an Erte, you know, the famous fashion illustrator who did all the Vogue covers, like, in the early 1900s. Very Erte. I have to believe that that was an influence for this character. I just added to the list of the millions of things I would ask John Byrne if I could sit him down and talk to him. He'd probably either love my questions or hate them. Either way, I'd want to ask. I love how he also, John Byrne is, you know, I always instantly recognize his signature, and I love, you know, how artists have their own distinct signatures, and you were always looking for them as a kid on the cover or whatever. And I love when they do something fun like this. He actually made the smoke spell out the name Byrne, so that's cool. And then you get El Diablo on the cover, which, I mean, what a corny design by today's standards, but such a great classic comic book character at the same time. I just thought this was interesting and kind of lazy, having like 2 splash pages back to back, kind of like that. I don't think it's necessary for storytelling, but whatever. I'm not going to complain because it is John Byrne art, and I love it. And who are we back to? Okay, Bob Wiacek is inking again. Not as, like, tight or well-rounded as Byrne's inks, but I still like them just the same. This is cool here. Walter was encased by Gilded Lily, and then he transforms into Sasquatch and breaks out. Such a cool page. I love that. This is cool here, too. Of course, any page with Snowbird on it is freaking awesome. But I love this, how this is so not traditional, how it just sort of breaks off here and opens up to this like L-shaped panel. Very not traditional, but very cool and effective at the same time. Love it. And then he rips off, because when would you just rip off like anyone else's costume and then reveal like this weird, like, she's like on wheels, she's like all robotic, yet there's still some like organic stuff inside. It's like so cool and creepy, and like kind of, I would love to see this on film. That would be freaking amazing. And then to add insult to injury, I've already disrobed you, and now I'm gonna rip off your face and reveal your old ass face as you crumble into dust, because it was the only thing preserving you. So awesome. And then they land in this big pile of cocaine, and he sneezes. I'm just kidding. It's snow, obviously, but fun, right? Rub Out, another great John Byrne character. Although I'm sure this is politically not correct, how he always made, like, big, obese women characters. Like, what's her name from Great Lakes Avengers? Big Bertha. And now we have Pink Pearl. And Echo a voi per la rosa. Pink Pearl was inspired, interestingly enough, by the Pink Pearl erasers that artists use. I'm sure they're still around. I mean, God knows I went through plenty of Pink Pearls in my artistic lifetime. And then also that it's called Rub Out, which is a slang term for doing something naughty to yourself on one hand, but it's also what English people call erasing, rubbing out the pencil lines. And John Byrne is English, sort of. He was born, where was he born? He was born in England, grew up in Canada. Now he lives in the East Coast, I guess. He was also born on my dad's birthday. Not the same year, but, but I love him like a second father. Pink Pearl, Ain't Too Pretty. And then juxtaposed by the thin man, I guess. And Jean-Paul with his sweater vest. Yellow sweater vest, mind you. I mean, if you could see these clothes in real life and all these weird colors, I mean, I don't know if it would fly or not. And then, of course, she smothers Aurora in her cleavage and makes her pass out. And then this chick, although Aurora gets her revenge, as you'll see, I always love the effect of Roger Bach's phasing into Bach's costume. I thought that was fun and cool. So Aurora comes to, she's tied up, but you can't keep a good French-Canadian down. She's gonna fly with her hands bound, which I always loved. I thought that was so cool. I don't know why. Then she kicks the bearded woman in the face. She's still tied up. Oh, and Jean-Paul decides to join the party. Hey, if my sister can fly around tied up, I can do it too. And then she bumps into the skinny guy with the knives who's about to throw it at Aurora. And because he threw out... And I love that her exclamation is in fat letters too. That's hilarious. And then she gets stabbed right in the chest. And Aurora, oh, she's still alive because the fat must have cushioned her deadly chest blow. And then she's all, guess what, Jean-Paul, I'm turning on you. I hated them fighting with each other. I was glad that when they were united, I felt like, you know, they grew up without each other, and I love my siblings so much. I couldn't imagine living without them, let alone turning them in for, you know, terrorism or whatever she was doing. Bob Wiacek and Keith Williams inks. This is such a great, you know, he's using the nightmare sequence again without the panel borders. And the art is just so beautiful. Even if Snowbird's being tortured there. And this is her human paramour who's teaching her how to be a human, Doug, that she worked with. Talisman fighting or learning how to fight from Eugene Judd. I guess he's kind of the Wolverine of the team. You know how Wolverine taught everyone how to fight and be a ninja with the X-Men. I guess being a bouncer at a bar qualifies Pug to teach everyone else judo and jujitsu and things like that. Alpha Flight. Such a great book. I love this book so much. 24. This was one of my favorite issues. This is also, okay, so I said that Byrne didn't do annuals, but he gave us, within 28 issues, he gave us 3 double-sized issues, and while still writing and penciling another, the Fantastic Four at the same time. So issue 1 was double-sized, 12 was double-sized, and 24 was double-sized as well. And you only had to pay $1.25 for it at the time. But it kind of broke my heart, like what happened to Sasquatch, although it was kind of cool how he went into Box's body, and that's all coming up. I mean, look at this. Look at all. I'm kind of glad that they kept this white as well, so you can see all the frickin' detail and gorgeousness, the epic scope of this double page spread. So cool. I mean, he's doing a double-sized issue, and then he's giving us, like, pages like this with all this detail at the same time. And that's why John Byrne is the man. And you will never change my mind about how much I love John Byrne's legacy and his art and his writing and the characters he created. Great splash page pinup of Shaman there, issue 25. Aren't you dead, Guardian? And here we're confronting Northstar for whatever his shenanigans were. Aurora, you B-word. Mac is back, although it may be a robot. We don't know yet. Yeah, we do. We read this however many years ago it came out. I love this explanation. Like, I fell for it like a ton of bricks. I thought Mac was back. Like, I felt so duped. So I kind of think that's genius in a way. Like, going so far as to, like, put this sort of cyborg body element into explaining how and why he came back to life. I mean, there was a lot of great stuff. So much fun. I love seeing Guardian. Guardian's been appearing in, John Byrne does this X-Men fan fiction called X-Men Elsewhere on his forum. It's called Byrne Robotics. It's free fan fiction. And he's been telling X-Men stories for like over 2 years now. And now he's working on the origin of Wolverine, which is so much better than that origin thing that with like the James Howlett or whatever crap that was. I hate that. And so he tied in Alpha Flight, of course, because, you know, that's how his origin elements were introduced as being part of Alpha Flight and then just sort of defecting to the X-Men. So I'm definitely glad to see that. This little Easter egg. There's this kiosk. They're in a mall somewhere, and it's like a comic book kiosk. So you have, at the time, there was a She-Hulk poster, which is now the cover of the She-Hulk Omnibus that John Byrne drew of her, like, holding a platform with a band playing on it. So there's that. And then the cover from Hulk with the Hulk Busters and the circle and the slash through it, like Ghostbusters. Very cool. I love the design. I love the way John Byrne always includes robots in his art, and his forum is called Byrne Robotics. And I have this theory, unconfirmed, that John Byrne is actually a robot. He refers to himself as an art robot when he is drawing for someone else's script. So if he's not a robot, I will be very surprised, because I think only a robot could have like the amazing output that he's had in his career, which would make you think, look at all this great Aurora stuff going on. I'm so happy. But make you think that Jack Kirby is also a robot, right? Oh, my battery's running low, so I better hurry this up. Oh, what do we have here? Crossover. Oh, so they include the Secret Wars crossover, Secret Wars 2. And then he left to go do Hulk. And I was devastated. I hated that. Kirby Crackle, thank you very much. Very cool image. I did love his run on Hulk, and then he did like 6 issues and then went to DC to do Superman. Here's the last issue, the Mike Mignola, Bill Mantlo taking over. So we'll get through this quickly. It looks horrible. Mike Mignola would, of course, go on to much better art. I don't think the inking was great on this. I hated it. I was devastated. I wanted to slit my wrists. Alpha Flight was never the same after this. Only John Byrne's run is like legendary. I love it. I would love to see them get their due. But that's that. I remember this great ad. I love that they're including stuff like this. Beautiful pinup from Ken Stacy. So that's that. The Alpha Flight Omnibus in Italian, no less. So gorgeous. So glad I have this. So happy to have brought this to you. If you guys have like an extra $400 laying around and want to get the Omnibus, go for it. Totally worth it. One of my favorite books ever. You'll be seeing more Alpha Flight from me. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, hit like, share my content, and I'll bring you some more later. Thanks, guys.